for the agenda.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
And in terms of the construction update book, are we going over the whole book, or how is that working?
Yes, please.
Mr. Smith, we'll be doing the same format we did at the last meeting, where we'll be giving an executive summary of all the yellow lights, and we'll address any questions or anything else you'd like to talk about.
Now I'm talking about the facilities master plan. That's the large document.
Yes. So what was your question about that?
How are we going to? What's the process into going over that?
So,
Mr. Smith, are you objecting to the fact that we're going to go over it? Because I think that's a little off topic as to the process. So are you objecting to the fact that we're even going to look at it?
Right, because my thing is it's such a large document that I don't know if one meeting if there will be suffice for it to even be on the agenda. So in other words, I'm possibly against it being on the agenda due to the fact that it is a large document.
Mr. Smith, you know what? I had the exact same thought, that it is a large document and it might behoove us to schedule another meeting. However, I'm not against us discussing that by presenting it at this meeting. Mr. Otting, you want to add something?
no, I mean, that is the overall plan, is to give a summary of what's there this meeting, and then address any questions or address in greater detail at a later meeting.
Right. So I think that we are in concert with that. I am with you, Mr. Smith. And so if we could at least bring it forward during this agenda meeting, we might then decide we need to have another meeting dedicated just to that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I can agree with that. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so let's vote on the approval of the agenda. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Can you hear me?
That's 3-0, approved unanimously. Next item, you said no public comments, right? Okay. All right. We have a lot of committee meeting minutes to make up, and I apologize. One of the reasons I was stumbling here is I was going to pull a few of those meeting minutes from the agenda, but they're all in there now. So what's the pleasure of the committee, to go through each one or take them as a whole? Robin?
I might suggest you might want to take each one, because there are a couple where like you weren't there or where someone's chair, so you might want to abstain, not unless you want to approve all of them, even though you didn't attend the meeting. I don't know if that's.
Yeah. I think at this late date for some of them, I did read through all of them except for the most recent ones that were just put in a little bit ago. So I would be okay as a whole. What is your pleasure, Ms. Beaufort?
I think we should just give them to the record.
Okay. Mr. Smith, any thoughts on that?
Not really. I'm fine with it as a whole. I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right. Well, then we need a motion to accept the committee meeting minutes.
So moved.
Secondly.
Okay. Any discussion about any of them? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 That was unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we'll go on to our next item, which is OE 16, the FOIA annual report and quarterly update. Ms. Cartledge?
Yes, good afternoon, board members. I'm with our extern, Ms. Addison Cooper, and you all have before you the annual report and the quarterly report, which has been prepared in compliance with the board operational expectation. And for the annual report, as you can see, there were in the 59 inquiries in this fiscal year. So now we're starting in 2022 with the new year. So we'll have the report to be for the board at the next meeting, which is scheduled for next Tuesday.
Are there any questions from Mr. Smith, Ms. Boatright, or any of the other board members that are in attendance today? Any comments?
Yeah, this is the FOIA report, correct?
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I did have a couple questions on this FOIA report. When I looked it over, go back to it. There was a couple. There were a couple reports under. I'm looking it up right now. Under Jody Scrutek,
Yes.
it was copies of Zoom video, emails for legal counsel. I didn't see the pricing on those, and also it was something else I didn't see on those. I was wondering about the price was zero. Why was that? Was my question.
I will just say to everybody, we're in a public meeting, and this issue involves a student matter, which is something that I cannot discuss in a public meeting under FERPA.
No, my question was in terms of charges. Was it actually? If you look on the chart under charges, it says zero. It's quoted zero. So my question is, I see that other people were quoted charges, and I'm just wondering for certain people. I just pull that out of the wrap. I mean, out of the hat. But how come there are no charges? Is my question. That has nothing to do with the with what's going on.
Yeah, well, I would need to ask Ms. Staten specifically. I don't think she's on. I don't know if she's on the. Is she on the call today? I don't believe she is, but I'll be glad to give an answer to that question. I can give you a call, Mr. Smith.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Smith, it does look like the majority, if not a tremendous majority, of the charges are zero. So you look through the report, there are very few where it's quoted to have any charges.
Right. And so I was just wondering. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, just a comment. So the ones you noted, line number 49 and line 50, are just one of many that have zero charges.
Correct.
That's right. And usually when there are, Mr. Smith and members of the board, usually when there is a charge, it's because it requires research to be done. So there's the time under the FOIA law, there's a charge, for retrieving the information. Sometimes it has to be searched to find it. Sometimes it's not readily available. So that's why there's a charge if there's a cost involved for retrieval.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, but I can't see whether it's. Okay. All right. Not hearing any other comments or questions. Do we have a motion to accept this FOIA report and with recommendation to the full board to accept it? Bring it to the full board with the recommendation to accept the FOIA report.
So moved.
Say that again.
To-
Motion to recommend to the full board.
Acceptance of.
Yeah, motion to bring OE 16 FOIA annual report and quarterly update to the full board with a recommendation to accept it.
And place on consent agenda.
Full board.
Recommendation to accept and place on consent agenda.
Who was playing Billie Holiday's song in the background? Does anyone hear that?
Yeah, can I hear?
Here, I couldn't remember.
I'm just wondering.
It's very impossible.
I'm guessing.
All right,
No.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I was in my phone. Are you listening?
All against? Mr. Smith, how are you voting?
Aye.
Thank you very much. That's 3-0. That's a unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ms. Cartledge.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the construction update.
Corbin?
Is he on there? Is Mr. Corbin on there?
Yes.
I am on. Am I ready to go?
Yes, sir. You are ready to go, and greetings.
All right. Greetings. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope everybody is well. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to provide the executive summary for the monthly construction updates. Long lead times for various construction-related materials continue to be encountered as a result of COVID and the challenges that arise from the pandemic. Project managers do continue to work closely with the designers and the construction managers to find solutions for these challenges, and they're doing that and still keeping the school administration and school stakeholders fully informed. Inside the report, there are yellow traffic lights appearing for 6 projects. One of the projects is Battery Creek High School. We put yellow light on it this month because of these schedule concerns due to material delays. We do believe that we'll find a solution for those material delays, but just in the abundance of caution, did want to include a yellow light for Battery Creek High School. Also included is a continuation of the yellow lights that have been previously reported for technology infrastructure scopes at Bluffton Elementary, Hilton Head Island Middle School, as well as, Bluffton Elementary, Hilton Head Island SCA, and H.E. McCracken Middle School. The other item that was previously reported on is the budget concerns at Hilton Head Island Middle School. We continue to go through value engineering and updated pricing, and we're expecting our next updated pricing to be received this month. And the last item is on Beaufort High School, the athletic addition on that campus. We learned in December that Office of School Facilities, OSF, is requiring an additional fire door to be added in addition to those that were previously shown on the construction documents. Because of that, our scheduled inspection has been delayed until those doors can be obtained and installed, and we are keeping the school administration closely apprised on that activity. The project closeout update, we have increased from 3 previously reported completed project closeouts. That's slide 38, Robin. The one that has been added in December was the closeouts are now completed for the addition that was completed at River Ridge Academy. The 6 traffic lights that are yellow that you see on this sheet here, all of the documentation has been received with the exception of the last final AIA change order. That's the one that reconciles the remaining construction contingencies and items such as that. The designer for those projects, LS3P, is preparing that final change order for each one of those projects, and with the fully execution of those change orders, those projects listed there will then be completed and completely closed out. Quick little update on the referendum financial expenditures through the end of December. We're now totaling 93.91 million. The projection had indicated a total of just over 98 million through the end of the month of December. That delta, I think, is accounted for from a couple different perspectives. One is it was a short month with the holidays and the number of pay app cycles that were accomplished. The other piece is we do have 2 vendors that have chosen to be a little slow in submitting their invoices. We do communicate with those vendors on a regular basis, and with one vendor in particular, we're communicating with them weekly, trying to encourage them to submit invoices for work that has been completed and put into place. If we'll go down a little further, Robin, quick update on the community outreach. We have an update for Hilton Head Island Middle School. The review meeting with the school administrators and school staff took place in December. Project manager is working to reschedule the review meeting with the Student Improvement Council. That meeting was not able to take place in the month of December, so we're looking for that to occur in January. And just as soon as that meeting has been accomplished, we'll turn our attention to coordinating the community meeting, and details and information related to that community meeting will be distributed just as soon as possible. And with that, I'll go ahead and conclude my executive summary for the construction updates for this afternoon.
Okay. Ms. Boatright?
Thank you. Just as a quick question, we're resurfacing the track of Hilton Head Island High School in January. Is that, I read that somewhere in here. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct, yeah.
How long does that take? Is that going to impact the spring sports?
I'm not hearing any indications of any concerns over the spring sports at this time.
So generally, is it like a 2-week thing, or?
I mean, once they,
Go ahead, Robert.
once they have it prepped and ready to put the surface down, I mean, and then they have the striping, so all that use typically can be done in a week once that's ready to go. Their goal is to have it done, I know, to be finished by the end of the month is when they start their season. I think there's some preseason stuff they're wanting to start now, but the goal is to have it done by the end.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought, was February 1st was sort of the goal.
I haven't heard any indication that they're off from that time.
So you'll let me know.
Yeah, if there is, we'll let everybody know, but as of right now, they're on that timeline.
And then for Hilton Head Island Middle School, I was on the SIC meeting last night, and they said they are shooting for the February SIC meeting.
Oh,
They've been in conversation with Tim Summers.
So,
But they seem fine with that. One thought I had was, if you're going to do let's say the SIC meeting in February, maybe like April for a community meeting, will we have anything to present on the high school at that point?
we're probably gonna start by April, if you're talking about having some conversations by April.
Okay.
Some preliminary conversations, so, I would, sometime in April, we'll be ready to start talking about the high school.
I was just thinking maybe if we did a community thing, having sort of, here's what's happened at Hilton Head, and then bring in the high school, since a lot of high school parents were in the middle school when this whole project can start, and make it like a joint sort of meeting.
I think we want to focus on Hilton Head Middle School. Those need to be separate. I wouldn't do joint, just because that way we can give our attention to the middle school when we're there, and a high school meeting will give all the attention to the high school.
Okay.
Mr. Campbell? You're muted, Mr. Campbell.
Oh, yes, with the delay in materials, is that going to cause any problem for Battery Creek or Robert Smalls?
Right now, we believe we can find solutions for those delays that have surfaced. Probably the biggest concern, if there is one, would be out at, I believe it's Battery Creek High School, and the availability of the new electrical transformer that's needed. Dominion Energy had indicated that was a long lead item, but as I said earlier, the whole team, the designer, the CM, our project management staff are all looking at alternative solutions so that work continues to progress.
I can tell you on Robert Smalls, I believe there's a meeting tomorrow. That's the owners' meeting where they're going to talk about that. There's been no indications as of yet, but there is a meeting tomorrow where they're planning on having that conversation.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that up and sharing it, Robert, because that is something that is ongoing with the project managers and the teams for the various projects on a regular basis, because the sooner we can be made aware of a potential concern, we have more opportunity to work towards a solution. And sometimes timing of the various materials, just by discussing it amongst the project managers, we have found in the past solutions that indicate that materials that are in need may have already been obtained for one of the projects, but it's not needed as quickly as the other project needs, and we can work out some alternatives for facilitating the materials where and when needed.
Okay. Any other follow-up question, Mr. Campbell?
No, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Smith?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a couple in reference to the St. Helena gym. I didn't see anything on there. Maybe I overlooked it, but I didn't see anything on there in reference to that. And I was also at the SIC meeting on yesterday. I was told that there was an update given on that. That the first of the year.
I do know that Mr. Smith, that we did provide an update for St. Helena Gym. I think that maybe the area that you're most interested in, Robert and I received the latest information just recently on that project. One of the big areas that we have been discussing with you and the community and the school locally is related to that new entry. And trying to find a solution that can help identify and improve the appearance of the main entry there for the gym. Information that we received most recently on that is that both the CM, H.G. Reynolds, and the designer, McMillan Pasden Smith, have gone back to the contractor at the end of last week. We're trying to come up with a design that produces that little bit of a wow factor for the entry of that gym, but we need to do so in keeping in budget. The latest pricing that we received on the modified entry, recall we've been reviewing different options over the course of the past couple months. They have just been astronomically high, and to a point where neither Robert or myself feel comfortable in bringing something forward for recommending award of that amendment. The latest price has come in just around $300,000 of additional cost for that revision. And recall what we have shared previously is we've got a goal of trying to do something more in the range of 100K. In talking to the project manager with H.G. Reynolds, he believes that by going back and trying to find a version of a canopy entrance should help us bring those costs further down and closer to that range. And now once we've got a solution that is palatable, Robert and I will bring that information forward.
Thank you. Also, in terms of the early childhood learning center, how about the roof over there? What have we come up with that for that?
That's a project for the upcoming summer. So that's not a project that started yet.
Okay. Okay. And then also Ladies Island Elementary School, in terms of the library. Maybe I overlooked it, but I didn't think I saw the library. I think I see the library on here. That's getting redone, correct, too, as well?
Yeah, that's on slide 36, is the updates on the media center projects. And for the Ladies Island Elementary School, you'll see that we've included what the scope includes. And once again, a recap of that is replacing the circulation desk, removal of the power poles, some FF&E improvements, and interior painting. In the month of December, we did hold the kickoff meeting with our new construction manager, Ajax Construction. And we are looking to have the GMP proposal received in the first quarter of this year, with a schedule for the renovations occurring during the summer break.
And is there a layout? Is there a layout for in terms of this library yet for the community to see?
There are construction documents that have been prepared and are being finalized as we speak. But once again, the scope is limited to that I furnished on this slide here. It's a new circulation desk. There's the power poles that are existing that desperately need to be removed. And we're going to be providing some additional furniture as well as painting the interior.
Okay.
Thank you.
All
You
right.
bet.
Mr. Corbin, I wanted to thank you for your report on the closeouts. There's a sense of urgency that I'm hearing, and I appreciate that because, you know, some of the closeouts were anticipated to have been done like the first quarter of 2021, and we're in the first quarter of 2022. So I greatly appreciate what I'm hearing you say to us is with a sense of urgency. So thank you for that. Can you
Absolutely.
share with me a little bit more about the process on, I think it was slide 23, Beaufort High School? It concerns me a little bit, and perhaps I just don't have the total understanding of it, but at this point of where we are with that addition at the Beaufort High School, just now we're hearing that another door has to be added. It just seems that, I mean, where in the process doesn't OSF have to sign off on it and approve of it? And can you explain some of that to me, please?
Yeah, I understand your question. OSF does plan reviews before construction commences. We address their comments that we receive, and then we build the project. It is not unheard of that when an inspection gets scheduled or a preliminary walkthrough takes place, we may find additional items that the OSF inspector has taken a closer look at and has determined additional changes are required. This is one of those cases, and the interpretation from the OSF inspector was clear, and the decision was to move forward with bringing in and installing that additional door.
So is that going to require taking out a window, or are you going to have to now break into this brand new building? I mean, what is it going to require?
If you mind, Rob, I'll take this because I had the conversation. So what the issue is we added on to the end of the building, and there was an exterior door that went outside. So it became a hallway.
Right.
The architect thought that their plan was just to leave that as an opening, and thought the space met fire code requirements based on its size and all that. OSF came back and said, no, you got to put that door back in. So it was where a door was before. It was an exterior door.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're going to have to put a door in there, and it will have hold opens like any other interior doors in the building. So that in case, and it'll be tied to the fire alarm. So
Okay.
in case of a fire, it'll unlatch those doors and close. But normally it will be open like a normal hallway.
So it's an interior door, not exterior.
Correct.
And so really the additional cost is just to
Yeah,
add the doors
yeah, and also.
and the framing and whatever.
Yeah, and the fire alarm, but it's not like we're having to tear anything
Got it.
out or anything.
Okay.
It's actually where a door was previously that they took down.
Okay, I was thinking it was an exterior door, and didn't understand how that could have happened. Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Smith? I see your hand is still up.
Yeah, actually, that was I was coming back to the question, but your voice got kind of low, Ms. Dottie. Basically, you said so. Basically, for me to digest this, basically, you're saying that you are redoing a door. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it was an exterior door of the building. We added on, so that became the hallway into the new addition. And they took that door out. OSF came back and said, no, you need to put that door in. That once was an exterior door, it's now an interior door. Does that make sense? Do you understand?
In terms of exterior as in inside the building, correct?
Yeah, now it's an interior door. It's inside the building and it's
Right.
part of the hallway that goes from what was the old space now into the new space.
Right. And so you're adding a door, is that correct? Or you're not adding a door?
Correct. We're adding a door. Yes, back into that space back into that space.
Okay. And that door has to be ordered, correct?
Yes, I mean, that's part of the problem. It's got to be ordered and that slows everything down. That's a problem right now. And it's been on order for a while. I think we've known about this for at least some time in the last month. So it's been on order, but yes, we'll be waiting on it to come in.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, ma'am, that was my last one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Rob, is else? No? Okay, Mr. Corbin, thank you very much. We will be seeing you at the clock meeting at 6 o'clock. Is that correct?
That is correct. I look forward to seeing everybody.
Very good. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. All right, the next item on our agenda. Back to that. It's me. Okay, I got, let's see, I got kicked out. One second, replace. I think it's how the way it is.
Pop from that big document.
All right.
So is that microphone on? Are we using that microphone?
Using that.
So you got to kind of face the.
Okay.
Face that way.
Okay, all right, the facilities master plan.
So we kind of touched on this earlier with Mr. Smith's question about this is a lot of information to cover in one meeting. So our thought was to just sort of present it to you today, walk you through the book to kind of familiarize you with what's in it, what's different this year. And then, you know, we can talk about it either at the next board meeting or, you know, a work session might have coming up where you would have the opportunity to be able to really ask questions and dive deeper into all the information that's in there, because there's a lot in there. So for an overview of the book, and Robin, I'm just going to kind of throw some page numbers out there every now and again, and if you want to hit those.
It's a great cover.
We can do that. It is a
Great
nice
cover.
cover.
Yes,
Yes,
wonderful.
that was a great picture
Yeah.
that we had. So there are a lot of things that are very similar to the books you've seen in the past, but this one is a little different. The title's number one. So this is called the Facilities Master Plan, and what you'll get in the spring is the Capital Improvement Plan. All the projects list and all those are now pulled out and put into another section. I'm kind of excited about this book because it goes back to, if you've ever heard me talk about any kind of planning, I always talk about the planning triangle, looking at the buildings, looking at the students, and looking at the instructional programs that go in it. And you have to look at all those three things in order to have a decent plan. So this book is really laid out that way. It starts with an executive summary, and then there's a program section, a demographics and student assignment section, and then the facilities section. So I kind of briefly talk about what's in each section. So obviously executive summary is just what that is. Yeah. So the program section, which starts on page 17, Rod, it starts out talking about all the different instructional things we have going on, choice offerings, early childhood education, special education, career and technology. And then we have a section on capacity of schools. So we've always talked about capacity of schools, but for the most part, it's been about building capacity. You all ask us to calculate a program capacity again, and we had not done that since 2018. And it's something that we want to continue to do every year, because we would like to sort of move to looking at program capacity more than building capacity, because that really is how you're using the building, what's happening there, and that changes as we change our instruction. And I think that came even more to the forefront with COVID and the things that we had to do to accommodate social distancing. So it's something that we want to continue doing.
Freddie on staff, which is awesome. So he could be able to help us keep and maintain that information. And so we're working on solutions to how the schools will be able to more readily available, keep that up to date. So on page 33, you will find a chart that kind of looks at all the different capacity that we've talked about. So there's building capacity without the mobiles, there's a building capacity with the mobiles. You've got the 2018 program capacity and then the program capacity we did this year. So you can see that variance. And it can change for a lot of reasons on the program side, because again, it's depending on what they've got going on. If they've added 2 or 3 special education programs, that makes a huge impact on the capacity, programmatic capacity of that school. So that's one thing that's quite different. And then at the end of this section, page 37, you'll see that we got from Dr. Stratus. And I will say that this book has had a lot more input from the instructional side and looking at the programs themselves, what their needs are for the future. And so she kind of gave us an outline list of these are the things that, and this is I would say, part of her total list, but these are the lists that would impact facilities. There are certainly other programs that they envision for the future for expansions or changes that aren't on here. These are the things that we identify would certainly have an impact on facilities. So there's that list, and you'll see that a lot of these get incorporated into the final list. Then the demographics and student assignment section that starts in the pages on 43, starts with enrollments by grade. You're used to seeing that chart. Then we have a chart that talks about where students live, the resident students. We talk a little about COVID enrollment, our drop that we saw last year, what we have recovered this year, and some of the reasons why we don't think some of the students are coming back. And we kind of got some information about Bridges and what their enrollment has done. And we feel like certainly their increase in enrollment and our drop in enrollment are correlated somehow. We don't track individual students. We don't know that for sure, but that's sort of an assumption that we are making there. We'll look at the enrollment and capacity. We talk about some population trends. We did get a little bit of information from the town of Bluffton. They just published their latest information last night at their town council. Okay. So it kind of did it, and their timing didn't quite align. Mm-hmm. They delayed theirs, we had delayed ours, but still didn't line up. But we've got a little bit of information in there about what's happening in the town of Bluffton with a lot of the developments. And then you've got your student assignment, the individual school sheets, and the maps of where the school students are that attend those particular schools, and that starts on page 60. Those sheets there. That format has not changed, so you all are fairly familiar with that. And then starting about page 126, we talk about the district-wide projections. Yeah, it's a long ways down.
A lot of facilities.
A lot of facilities. So again, we have the projections broken out to district-wide. We look at northern Beaufort County, southern Beaufort County, and then each of the individual clusters. And one thing that we did this year was include 3 previous projection years. So we have 2019, which was sort of our pre-COVID projections. 2020, where we had a drop in enrollment, obviously, that affected the projections. And then this year's projections that you'll see. So kind of what we're seeing in terms of trends are those areas that were declining pre-COVID are still declining.
That's Robin.
Yeah. So let's look at 128 would be northern Beaufort County. Here about 136. Keep going up. I know, because it's a large document. You're pulling it offline.
126.
One, yeah, that's
There's
one,
one.
that's one, that's
Yeah.
one. Doesn't matter
That
what
was
one.
fine.
That's
That's district-wide.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, that one's perfect.
Okay.
Oh, you lost it.
It's probably slow to catch up with you.
It is probably. So they're different. They're color coded to help you
Yes, that was.
understand which year we're looking at.
What's that? No, now you need to go
One
the other direction.
26.
And Robin, you
You're on
can type the
122.
number in at the
Yeah.
top, right? You can type the number in, it'll take you right to it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No,
No,
Keep going to your
keep
left.
to your left.
See where it says 122?
Mhm.
Okay, hover, right, click on there and type in page 127
7.
and then hit enter. There you go.
boom.
There we go. Right. So there's a lot of lines there. Like I
Yeah.
said, the blue line is the current 2021 projection. The green line is the pre-COVID 2019 projection. The yellow line is last year's projection. The dotted line kind of talks about how, we're want to go more towards programmatic capacity. So this would be the needed capacity line. If we were to have everything we want and everybody stayed about 85% usage of building capacity, we would be at that dotted line. And the red line is the total capacity. So we want to kind of hover everything right there around that dotted line.
So we're at district-wide and we're in great shape.
District-wide, we're in great shape.
We're
That's
below
right where we would kind of like to be, right below it, even with projection going up. But again, the projection model, and I'll kind of go briefly over that once again. It takes first it looks at births who moves into the area, and births have been on the decline in Beaufort County for 10 years or more. So that, in the whole nation, exactly. So those numbers coming in are getting smaller every year. So that affects what we see coming in at the elementary in terms of projections. So sometimes our elementary projections are a bit low because of that. That's how the model works. And then it takes a cohort survival. So it looks at how many kids go from first grade to second grade, how many from second to third over that 5-year period. And it builds that, but it's a weighted average. So the most recent trend is going to get more weight and have more influence going forward. So when we saw the dramatic drop last year with COVID, that really affected the projections. So if you go to page 134, that's the Bluffton chart. So you'll see that green line was very dramatic there pre-COVID. The yellow line, when we had that drop that you see on the blue line, it dropped those projections down and kind of flattened them out. But what you'll see this year is we recovered students in the Bluffton area. And so it's putting that projection line going back up on track where we were before. And that's what I'm saying. This year, we're seeing what was happening pre-COVID. It's kind of moving the projections back to those same trends. So if you were declining before, you're declining again. And if you're growing, you're growing again. And that's kind of what we're seeing there. Starting on, so there's one of these for every cluster. Starting on page 136, we talk about changes in student assignment. Right now, we have no plans to do any kind of rezone changes in student assignment. If you'll recall what we did back in 2018-19 was, the board gave us the ability to assign brand new neighborhoods that didn't have any students in them to a school zone that had the ability to expand, or we knew we could add mobiles or those kind of things. And so we have these sort of donut holes in our attendance zones in the Bluffton area. We've identified all those different neighborhoods. Now students are starting to, houses are being sold, students are starting to move in. So we're going to just continue to track those so we can see what the effect is until we were able to, build new schools and make those changes in student assignment in the future. So that's going to be a continuing thing in the book. Then the facility section starts on page 147. And again, this is different from previous. There is no project list here, but there's a project list here. It's just a little different type of project.
Yes.
It's more of, here's what we think we need and how we know that we need it. The list is divided up into 3 categories, really. Additional student capacity, strengthening district infrastructure, and facility modernization. So page 153 starts the additional student capacity list of items. And again, these are just sort of general talking about what those needs are. And mobile classrooms are on there, additional early learning classrooms. We talk about pre-K expansion needs. And if we were to move to a pre-K for all model that the current administration has talked about, what that would mean in terms of we don't have space to accommodate if we were to have to serve all the potential pre-K students. So that is something we need to constantly be monitoring and what that would mean in terms of future facility needs. We've got additional seat capacity in Bluffton for both the elementary, middle, and high school levels. We've got cafeteria and kitchen space for May River High School as a need. They are not able to accommodate all their students without having 5 lunches, I think is what they're on right now.
Sitting in the hallways.
And they're sitting in the hallways.
9:30 or something.
Yeah.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, yes, sir.
I'm a bit concerned that we're digging and diving into too many specifics into this plan, and that is what I think may need to be a actual full workday plan or a special call meeting. That's what I didn't want to begin to happening, because we're just beginning to talk about one particular areas and the needs of those areas. And I think this is a more of the understanding and digesting as a full board or as a committee, and to take the time to actually put into this to dissect it and to actually understanding it. So I think giving nuggets into going into certain things are a little different versus giving nuggets and versus going into certain areas and giving a little information. I think that's a bit much right now.
So I hear you, Mr. Smith. I feel that out of a 165-page document, we're on page 154 in about 20 minutes. So I really think we're doing the bird's eye view. And I would appreciate if Ms. Crutchfield could just finish her presentation, but I agree with you. This absolutely is going to, I loved your idea of a work session, Ms. Crutchfield. I'm thinking, for the whole board to have a chance to really dive into it, or us to have another special called meeting to go over this and then a work session. So I'm going to allow Ms. Crutchfield to continue. She only has 11 more pages of this large document. So if you could continue, please.
Okay, and just trying to hit the bullet points of what's in there. Yes. So stadium expansions are on there, weight room at Bluffton High School, and land for future schools are all part of that additional student capacity category. Under facility modernization, we have a replacement school for Ladies Island Middle School. We have career and tech expansions, JROTC at May River, renovations and replacement Hilton Head High School, parking lot and entrance drives, additional parking at May River High School, and Riverview Charter Gym is also on there for modernization.
Okay.
And then the last category is district infrastructure, and that covers a technology, warehouse, and imaging center. If you've ever seen this building in the summer, you would understand that one. We'll dive deeper in that later. Early childhood office spaces, and spaces for them to, assess and test the students. Transportation shop, with improved bus storage lots also. Kitchen improvements at multiple schools. A kitchen here that would serve both Right Choices and the multiple catering needs that seem to be for multiple meeting spaces here. And then an electric vehicle charging station or stations around the district. Again, remember there's no details in this facilities master plan. You'll be getting that part in the spring, where project scopes will be more discussed in detail at that point when we present that list. So this is just on those major points and how we came to those conclusions.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Addy?
So this is a section I get excited about, just because what I see the purpose here is to get the board more involved and give us direction. So here's what we see before we make our project specific list. Here's what we see as our big picture goals. Are these the board's goals? Are there a different direction we should be going? Is there something else we should be focused on? That's its purpose. Where are we on these big items?
Right.
And then from that, we'll develop our CIP with all the project specific needs of all the buildings as well.
If I may, I think this is fabulous. I can see the major difference between this and the previous 5-year, 10-year plans when it was all combined, where the list was already developed, and has been over several years. I appreciate greatly this format because to me, you all are the experts in the facilities, the planning and everything. And this really gives us an idea specifically, especially this last section, of where you guys are seeing the needs. I think this format's fabulous. I think that it's going to take several hours to really deep dive into it. And it would seem to me that would be better done at a whole board meeting so that you're not doing several hours deep diving into it with us and then it goes to the full board with the same kinds of questions. But I can see how much work and thought has gone into this. Greatly appreciate this. And I have so many questions, but if we're going to do it at a different time, I would like to hold them till then. Ms. Boatwright, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that I do have a lot of questions I've been making notes on. I think some are pressing in terms of how we schedule this, because there are several schools that have hit that 110% capacity. And then, so I think we need to not sort of put this off.
I agree.
But I have more questions.
So not seeing any hands, and I don't know, is Mr. Stribinger still on the line, still with us? Robin, has there been any Okay. David, I'm glad that you're here just to hear this. Robin, we have a work session the end of this month, right?
28.
Is there an agenda already set for that work session?
No.
Okay. Mr. Stribinger, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I would anticipate that this would almost be a full day to answer everybody's questions. So, that's the way we're going to approach it. And I agree with you that it would be a waste of time to bring it to the operations committee and spend hours and hours on it and then bring it to the full board, because you're going to spend hours and hours again at the full board. This is like too important not to do that. So when we set the agenda for the work session, we will keep that in mind. Otherwise, we can always call a special meeting.
Yeah.
Us focuses on this. So if we don't get it into the work session, if there isn't room to get it into this upcoming work session, then we'll float the idea of having a special session just to focus on this and get it done before the end of the month.
Right. I agree. Yes, I think to Ms. Boatwright's point, that would be crucial because some of these things are sensitive that we need to start making some decisions, because you're hoping to have the CIP together by when?
March.
By March. Yeah. Okay.
Into March, April. I always say about that.
Yeah.
Into March, early April.
Okay. All right. So, Ms. Stribinger, then that's great. I'm so great. I'm thankful that you're on today so you can hear this for when the agenda setting comes up for the work session. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
and remember, if we change direction, it has to be a full board decision.
Right, right.
So if we tell Robert and Carol that they have to go in a different direction, that has to be a full board vote. So
That
that's
does
the way
seem,
we look at it. Go ahead.
Right. Totally agree. So that will be our plan. Thank you very much. Anybody else have their hands up? No.
but I would like, so this will
Yes.
count though, from an operations committee standpoint as OE8, right? This is what you're submitting for
It's the
OE8.
next item.
As part of it.
We're gonna talk about that in a
Part of it.
second.
Okay.
I do have, so I would like, what I envision is then if we do the operations committee report at the next board meeting, we kind of do the same just description of what's in the book for those that aren't here, so they'll know as well prior to. board
I think that would be crucial so that when we do have it at the end of the month, either a work session or a special call meeting, everyone understands the format, understands the purpose, just exactly what you did. Because it was a great way to lay it out and walk us through it without going into the details.
Correct.
So
Good.
I agree, Robert.
I like how your page numbers set up this.
Okay, so that would be the reporting out for that. All right,
Yeah.
great. All right. I don't think we need to have a motion for this to go on. We're just, it's going to be on the, hopefully the work session or a special called session. So I greatly appreciate, thank you for all your work on this. And I look forward to asking all those questions that I have.
I'm just writing them all down.
All right, wonderful. The next thing on the agenda is the OE8 facilities. Robert?
All right, so this is the first time we tried this format. It's brand new. This is the direction that kind of been given that we'd like to go. I think it came out of y'all's work session to some
Peggy
extent.
Torrey.
With Peggy Torrey. So we're gonna try this. And
We are game for it.
Yes.
Yes, we're game.
so I need whatever feedback y'all have because it's first time. So what you see here is directly out of OE8 facilities. And this was presented to y'all back in June 25th of last year, where we gave the interpretation and then the monitoring indicators. So what I've done, so the first page and the second page are just listing out OE8.
Right.
So that's all that is. Once you get to page 3, you get to the different interpretations. So right there off the bat is the main interpretation for all of OE8. And then since this was broken down into several little components, the monitoring indicators are for each of the components and how those were done throughout the year. So if we go to, and you'll see like the first item is divided into A through I. And the monitoring indicator for that first section is on page 6 at the bottom. And pretty much is, talks about the different things we're going to bring that are large to you, which are what we used to call the 10-year plan, which is now divided into the facilities master plan and the capital improvement plan. Other big items are the semi-annual maintenance and custodial report, and then all the reports we do on RFPs. And that kind of describes when those occurred. So your 10-year plan or facilities master plan occurred today. We're going to do the capital improvement plan in the future in March of this year. Last year, it was incorporated as part of the 10-year plan. So that's a little confusing. We haven't done it this year. It was done last year, but really we report on what's happened in the year past. So really we're reporting on, we did it last year in January as part of the 10-year plan. And so then we also have the dates where we came and talked about maintenance and custodial. Those occurred on March 10th and October 26th of last year. And then there is the requirement for all RFPs on major construction projects to be brought to the board. And there were 2 of those last year. And that's listed there. July 14th was the RFP for architectural, which was a 2-year contract for referendum and 8% projects. And then August 11th was brought to the operation committee, the notification for, we went out for the construction manager at risk for those same projects. So that's the first. So let me just stop there and see if there's any questions on that first item. There's lots of layers here.
There are lots of layers, and I actually like the way that this is putting this out to us, especially this first OE8, 1A through I. The facilities plan covers a lot of this, and especially when you said, Ms. Crutchfield, that the instructional services division provided all that input as to what their vision is, it just seemed to me like this document is addressing more of the concerns and looking at it from a different way. So very pleased with that. I think that's great. That's great.
So Freddie brings to the table.
Exactly.
So I'll move on then to number 2.
Sure.
On page 7. So the main thing, this is where and we didn't maybe focus on this. This is where it's important to establish what those monitoring indicators are. What we had on there, of course, was bringing major construction and design contracts to the board approval prior to issuance. And so what I've listed here is every contract that we've brought forward to the board for approval. It is kind of interesting, at the year's end to look back and go, oh my gosh, we brought a lot to the board for approval. You think of all the times that we've come up and asked for approval of a contract. And all these are all contracts or amendments that exceed the threshold of the 1% of our budget, which comes to approximately, it has to be something over 600,000. So these are all those contracts that were brought. And that's what I'm presenting for you today. That's over the last year, that's all that we brought to you.
I felt the same way when I read this. I was like, holy smoke. No wonder we've had so many operation committee meetings and executive sessions and so on. You guys, it's been very busy. Very busy, but
we're in the middle of a referendum. So
that's right. So it should be. I didn't have any questions.
I just have one question. It's kind of a general question. Based upon educational specifications with what you said as far as ISD and formula this, does that ever get laid out to the board? Do we ever say, here are the educational specs? I mean, obviously on the referendum or building a school or renovating, but if you're adding something, does that ever get put on a contract, like the why of why this is getting done? Because I don't know what educational specifications means, but I'm intrigued.
So you asked, there's a whole lot of stuff in what you just said. So I needed to be a little more specific, I think.
I think probably first define educational specifications.
So in our world, what that means is what's a typical classroom layout? What's a typical lab layout? What's the media center layout? What are our expectations? So, and that's why in that next question you asked, is that ever discussed as part of a new project? So every major project, that's a big part of that. And as the owner, which is we're building something, we're classified as the owner compared to the designer or the contractor. We have to tell the designer what our expectations are. And that's that educational specification. What's our classroom size? The fact that we want an integrated whiteboard of this brand on that wall, that, floor should be this material. Yeah.
So I'm going to even back up on that.
Okay.
So, and I mentioned it in the facilities master plan, one of the things that I think Dr. Stratus mentioned was looking at the 2020 and beyond documents. So what we did was pre-COVID year, I don't even remember when we did it, I think it was 19, we sat down with them and talked about, okay, so what's in a regular classroom at elementary level? And so, not the furniture, not the things inside, but what's attached to the building should be in a classroom for everything, for every kind of classroom, for every kind of instructional space. So we have a document, and that's given to the architects. So that's sort of the first step in that educational specifications list of what that needs to be. And then they sort of meet with the staff and is there anything else that needs to be added to that? So there's sort of multiple layers of how that works.
I was just kind of interested in the ISD thing. We're missing.
Well,
Yes.
And so.
No, we're trying to continue to bring that and make sure we're actually fulfilling the needs that they have for their
See, that
specific.
conversation is so important, and that was going to be one of my questions, is on page 37, under visions for academic future, it did talk about that 2020 and beyond document,
Mhm.
and I was very interested in that,
Okay.
and I don't know that.
It's not it's an internal document,
Sure.
really.
I don't think we've ever presented it. We've
No.
presented it to ISD and met with departments, but as
Right.
far as board or operations committee involvement, I don't think we've done.
No, I don't think we have,
And it
because,
needs to
yeah,
be
it's really
updated.
more, it does need to be updated, so,
Well,
Yeah.
and so I didn't say that because I necessarily wanted to see it, but
Yeah.
that was evidence to me that there is that conversation happening. And perhaps it's happened in years past, but to see it in this document, you know, and saying that here is that conversation that has been had between instruction and construction, you
Well, I
know.
just think, there's some obvious reasons, like we build because we ran out of space and we need a classroom with a whiteboard and so many desks. But sometimes I wonder, and can't think of any examples, if there's opportunities for us to go to the public and say, we're doing this because we have these we were expanding our K program, we're putting in cybersecurity, so we need to build.
That whole community group prior to the referendum.
Yeah, and that's because that was 2 or 3 years ago. So I was just thinking it'd be great if there's an opportunity to have that, since we're public facing, and it gives people motivation to vote. for
Yeah,
I
more
think
money.
you're doing all that
I was
about the
gonna
same
say-
time frame.
Now, when we do Hilton Head High School, we'll delve into that pretty
Yes.
deep. We'll get in a
Yes.
long conversation about that. Because that, when you start talking about a high school, that gets very detailed and very
Yes.
involved. So you will experience it with Hilton Head High School.
Well, and I guess my big point too is just now I've been on this committee for a year, so I'm sort of have a bigger picture. But there's a lot of people don't engage on buildings as much as they engage on what's going to occur inside the building. So I was just thinking that was a good thing to have when it's available, which we have.
I will say, I think we've wanted to get more involved and always been pushing to get more unity between us and ISD. I think with Freddie on board and Dr. Stratos, there is actually more ability to do that and more desire to do that both. So it is coming together.
I think that if the board would, I'll speak for myself, but we've had this conversation with other board members, other committees, how crucial it is that the different departments' operations does speak to instruction. And I mean, and like you said, I know you have, but I highly urge you to continue doing that. I mean, Mr. Mel Campbell's words are in my ears about what is instruction going to look like 20 years from now, and how are our buildings going to be set up so that instruction it has the correct housing. So you can't do it without that kind of conversation. So Mel's sitting right here on my shoulder right now.
And part of it, and I think y'all have learned this too, and I know I've learned it, and part of what's so critical about Freddie is that we speak a different language than educators. They do. And educators speak a completely different language, so that you almost need a translator. I mean, not that that's taking it, but it's two different worlds, and you do have to you do need to merge those and find a way to make sure that what they're saying, what ISD is saying, gets translated into what we do.
Or what we think we hear them saying,
Yes.
is actually what they're saying, because sometimes it always hasn't been. So, yeah.
Well, I guess my follow-up, which I don't mean to hammer, but I think it's great that you guys are doing it. I also would love to have it transparent to the public, because I think it's such an incentive for people to get more enthusiastic about referendums and taxes, impact fee, if we're saying.
Well, and you bring up referendum, when we start working on another referendum, we're gonna need to have that conversation with, if we form, most likely we'll have a group again and we'll need to have those conversations.
Okay. That was a fulsome answer. Thank you so much.
Yeah, where am I? Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go to item 3, quarterly updates. I kind of cheated on this one. Well, we kind of cheat with our monitoring indicator for the most is the same as 9. So as long as we're meeting OE9, we'll be meeting this requirement.
Right.
But, you know, as I said, we present monthly, as you know, as we did tonight, a construction update. And I believe last year we met every one except 1 month I think we missed. I think it was November or something like that. We got kind of pushed off.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're always available.
Yes.
With your time.
Yes.
It wasn't intentional. There were too many other things that were on the agenda that month. So let's move on to item 4, negotiation of land transaction, which includes sales, purchases, lease, and easements. Once again, once you start looking back over the year, you see all the items that we brought before you as far as any type. A lot of these are easement requests. A lot of these have to do with Beaufort Jasper water and sewer. So yes, those are all listed there over the year.
Okay.
And, you know, I think how this should work is that if you're hearing or seeing or think something's out there that we did without bringing it to you, that needs to be brought up. I'm not aware of anything, and so we listed all these, but you know, that's what I think
Okay.
how this should work.
Okay.
If there's something there that you all believe happened that we didn't bring before you, then that needs to be brought forward and we need to address it, or we asked why we didn't bring that forward. The next one's a harder one. Project life cycle costs as capital decisions are made. That is something we do when we make decisions on buildings. And I gave just the example here of LED lights. And LED lights, we did not bring forward, say on May River and River Ridge, because they were not cost effective. Now they've become cost effective. We brought that forward as our standard for all buildings. I'm kind of, I guess, looking for some direction here. What would you like for us?
As evidence?
Yeah, because I don't have a whole lot there. And it's something for you to think about.
Yes, thing to think about. Thank you.
And-
So, yeah. Yeah.
Hamster the wheel goes.
Number 6, ensure that facilities are clean, sanitary, and safe. And of course, that's a little, we give a semi-annual report that's brought to the operations committee, which happened on March 10th and March 26th. And then that's taken to the board on March 16th and November 2nd.
We also, on October, we had that large conversation about maintenance and custodial work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did I?
No, you got it there. You got it there, but you didn't highlight it.
I'm
To me,
sorry.
that was just more, I mean, I thought that was a very good conversation, and I'm interested to hear how the results of that. There was going to be a new report. You hired someone, well, didn't hire someone new, but changed some job descriptions so that the work orders would come be more, right? We talked about somebody signing off on it. You know, I mean, so I just want to hear, it'd be interesting to hear back how that has changed, so.
All that is still in the works, actually. I'd say we're still working through implementation.
Okay.
Item 7,
Madam
guidelines.
Chair,
Yes, sir?
just real quick, as you bring that up, when could we possibly get an update on that? I mean, I understand that he's saying that that it is in the work, but you know, at some point in time, we're gonna have to buckle down and get things done. So I just like to get an understanding of when we could possibly get an update, because I'm sure the district is walking and chewing bubblegum at the same time. So I'm sure we're able to get an update on that sooner than later. So if you don't mind, could you I mean, if you don't mind, could we figure out when could we possibly get an update on that?
So, Mr. Smith, if you would allow, I have a list over here on my sheet of paper that as I was preparing for today's meeting. And the last thing on it talks about an update on that particular procedure. So I was going to work with Robin and Mr. Otting for the agenda future topics and get an update on that, okay?
Thank you. I definitely appreciate that, Madam Chair.
Okay. Wanna continue?
Right, the next item, kind of has to do with facilities use, administering facilities use guidelines, and the monitoring indicator. That presentation was done on October 26th. So that's where we came and gave indication of all the different users of the facilities, and what different types were, and things of that nature. We will continue to do that in the upcoming. So the next one has to do with student realignment and student attendance. That is part of the master plan that was just presented to you tonight. So you see in there that I'm indicating that that's presented today, and then we will take that to the board. And as Carol said in her report, there were no changes made to student assignment during the 2021 school year.
Question. Staff shall provide the board phased capacity notification for schools that are not at the target 85% capacity. What is phased capacity notification? Is that like value? It's under in 8.1.
8.1.
Under interpretation.
Sorry.
I mean,
It
to
sounds
me
like
that
value cost engineering to me a little
So
bit.
I think it's when you find that you have to do some changes, right? So it says our procedure for revising student assignment would be the following. So
Yeah.
isn't that what this facilities plan basically?
well, I mean,
letting
to
us
me,
know right
phase
now?
means you want to be told along the way. You
Right.
don't want to wait till it's too late, and that's
Right.
why we report every year on where we are,
Mhm.
and we have the projections that are giving you an indication of where we think we're going. So
Now, I think this could fall in line too with, as you bring a new school online or multiple schools online, sometimes you do a phased student assignment plan, like we did for River Ridge
Oh, that
and,
means-
and May River High School, where we were opening one, and then the next year we're opening another. And so, because that involved pretty much the whole area, we developed a phased plan. These neighborhoods were gonna move during this
Year
school year one, and then the next year was a phase
Yeah, because
two. So, and it, it's gonna change every time we may implement something as a school comes on.
So
So-
I think you're completely in compliance. I'm not questioning, but I was just wondering what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Is that same staff shall provide the phased capacity notification for schools that are not at the target 85%, like they're short of the target 85%?
Well, 85% is where we would like schools to be. So if they're not
So they're
there,
beyond.
yeah,
So should we be getting some sort of discussion about school realignment at 85% capacity?
85% capacity is,
Our target.
and it's normal. Well, but this is, so,
Yeah.
So if I may, I do,
Oh,
I
this is-
thought this is the North of the Broads, I'm sorry, this is the Bluffton Growth Committee. That's the reason that committee was kind of established. Was because of all the information they had gotten we had gotten as a board prior to COVID and, trying to determine what is the need. And then based on other 10-year, 5-year plans, Ms. Boatright, back earlier on, before we had this new format, it was when schools were below 50%.
Yeah.
And so that's, the North of the Broad Ad Hoc Committee has been developed to kind of take a look at capacity and building usage and so on. So,
Well, I can wait till the board dives into the.
It's
plans,
kind of
because we're
interesting.
clearly in the red in some of these areas.
Well, I mean, so
Yeah.
phase could be two, I think you both just gave two definitions of what phase could be. One being, and we have that as far as the different levels, where 85% is where you want to be. Once you start going above, at 90%, we no longer have choice without superintendent's approval, and special programs up to 95. And actually, even the special programs up to 98. And once you're above
I think you go all the way to 100.
100, you're supposed to start thinking about how are we going to address this overcrowding? And then you have the same thing as,
Like something we should-
and then you have a phase plan as well as schools decline in population.
Right. And so I really do believe the past 18 months to 2 years that prior to COVID, that this was going to be a big focus, the development of the Bluffton Growth Committee. And then it's kind of like we've hit warp, like whoa, through it. And we're just trying to push through that kind of invisible barrier to make stuff. But the data, we didn't have good data because the 45-day last year was, kids were, it was off, it was COVID.
And now you have to see how things are gonna come
Right.
back, and we still don't know exactly how they're
No,
gonna
we're
come
not
back.
sure, but it's starting to get a little bit back to normal.
It's a good analogy. I mean,
Yeah.
I like it.
You have to have Star Trek reference.
Yeah.
No.
Are you a Trekkie?
No, no, it just feels that way, so I don't know, did that
Closet
answer your
I just,
thoughts?
and that's something I know that we will talk about.
Yes, oh, yes.
But I just, the wording when I was always like, I was like, phase capacity. Anyways, I was just trying to make sure I understood the process, so. Carry on.
All right, last item has to do with energy consumption in the school district, improve teaching and learning. And basically, what I have here is that we did not report to you on energy this year. Partially because our focus has been more on air quality.
Right.
And we've not, and that is a trade-off, let's say. So in that we run our buildings now 2 hours earlier, just so that we've got all the turnover in air. We're focusing on providing as much fresh air as possible, and our focus has not been on energy, and we have not been asked to come and report or talk about energy. So it may be something that we need to do going forward is develop an energy report. What are the thoughts on that? Would you like us to come and do an annual update on an energy report? We do have to report to the state in September. So I'd say if we were going to do one, a good time to do it is sometime after September. We could at least present, we just haven't done it in the past, or we have, it's been probably.
Yeah,
Just see,
We
it
used
was like
to
the
be
solar
it.
farm,
It's
right?
about
Didn't you
3
present?
years ago.
We did a presentation,
Yeah.
probably pre-COVID, we did a
It's
presentation.
been a couple years ago.
And then, in the past,
Yeah.
we've had it in the 5-year plan book, there was sometimes
Yeah.
a little section about energy usage
Yeah,
but
But we did not do one
we
last year.
didn't, right, no.
But I'm more than willing to come and bring an energy report.
Yeah, we were talking about where we can fold that in, yeah.
well, it seems to me if you have to report something to the state, that is the perfect time, and I don't know what they're asking you to report, but I would imagine it would be the same type of stuff that we would be interested in, so.
Well, there's just a spreadsheet of all our energy usage, but that kind of gives us, that lets us know how we've done.
Right, so
So to even add to the work plan, we are talking about revising the work plan, so that would be
Right.
something you would
Put on the work.
put on the work plan.
yeah, I think that would be of interest. Certainly we know that any new buildings, the more energy efficient we can make them. And we're talking about electric vehicle stations, charging stations. So energy is a big deal. So I would like, and it's part of this, energy is part of this, so.
So that's it for what I have for OE8.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Mr. Smith, any questions? All right, well, we need a motion.
Yeah,
Oh,
I do have a question. And in terms of, what exactly does he want to be done with this document today? What is he asking of the board?
This is OE8, and our responsibility is to go through the operational expectations and make a recommendation to bring it to the full board, either to accept or not accept.
I do have a question in terms of this document, and in terms of the well, let me ask you this: have the policy committee met yet?
In what regard, Mr. Smith?
I was
And
wondering because there was some interpretation that I was looking forward, that was looking to be a part of this document, and in terms of who can renovate buildings and contracts. I was looking for a little bit more of those. I was looking for a little more of that information in this document, and I didn't see that.
We've already voted to accept.
As I recall, and I don't have the date when we did this, but we as I recall, we accepted this, we sent it to the full board, the recommendation that they accept it, and then the full board did accept the interpretation, as I recall. So this OE8 interpretation has been accepted, and then today is the report of that. It's the monitoring report. I would suggest, Mr. Smith, that if you have any concerns with the OE8, that maybe you bring it up at the next board meeting and ask that it be sent to the policy committee.
Well, I believe that one of them has already been sent to the policy committee, if I'm correct. In terms of the policy of utilizing of the buildings, I believe that was already sent to the policy committee.
That was the AR.
That wasn't.
I'm not sure the board, I'd have to go look back. I'm not sure they did accept. In its
Okay, I'm saying I
entirety,
didn't remember.
because there's a big discussion about it, and I don't remember where it ended up.
Right, but I think what Mr. Smith's referring to is the AR,
Is the
on
AR,
use of facilities, which we did refer
Oh,
to the
the-
policy committee.
Is that,
Yeah, that's the
Right.
use of facility.
But that's an
not-
AR, that's not
Right.
the OE.
Exactly.
maybe that's it.
We had a
I'm
discussion
sorry.
or maybe,
Because I remember we took one of them and we said we'd deal with it later because there was a lot of discussion.
It was the use of the facility.
Is that the one?
Because it- Yes.
and how we define so much.
Right.
And so there's kind of-
But what I did not check to see if this got ratified by the board.
I think I'm pretty certain it did. I will
Some
see if
of
I
them-
can find it.
So, Mr. Smith, I also had down here on my list of future topics is to go back to I wrote down facility use, because I recalled the big conversation about it, but I didn't write down which AR that was. But I remember that was still sitting out there about facility use. I think that's different than this OE8. That was the AR when we had that conversation. Do you recall, Mr. Smith?
Yes, I kind of do. I do recall, but my concern is with this being facility use. I would kind of like to know, in terms of, there are still people who are using the facilities. I didn't see any of that information in this information in this update as well. I mean, because if we have people using the facilities, they're still underlining questions.
Right, so on October 26th, a presentation was given, it was OS 29, the use of school facilities. So, so what you're saying, Mr. Smith, is that you are thinking that you would like.
But it went to the board, and the board had a discussion, and the board referred it to the policy committee. There's a motion
That's what I'm thinking.
that we referred it to the policy committee, and it was probably November meeting.
Must have been, this was October 26th that we had this, it was on OS 8 or
probably the
OS
first.
29.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Mr. Smith, if you wanted to make a motion to recommend to the board to accept OE8 with the exception of OE8.7. Just remember we did that with one of the human resource with one of the OEs from HR, and so they will have to bring that particular part back to us. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, I will bend on that. That's fine. Okay.
And so therefore, I mean, you raised a good question. We don't have absolute recall on this. Is this a board meeting?
Yeah.
I have a pretty good recall on the facilities use thing. What I'm not sure is the procedure.
OE9.
This is your question, you kept asking, because it was an AR, how can the board direct?
I'm not
And
sure.
the process with an AR.
I don't think we should not accept the compliance report as is because it's pending possibly being changed for the upcoming year. Because then what happens is we get in this cycle of this like odd ends hanging up there. So to me, we already have, and I was trying to find the motion, that the policy committee is going to review this OE to see if additional language needs to be added. But I would prefer to, personally, to recommend acceptance of the OE for, because it's for this last year, right? I mean, yeah, for 20. So we could do is have a motion that says recommend to the full board acceptance of OE 8 compliance report for 2021. You know, then it wouldn't affect what's going to happen in the policy committee.
Right.
But on the next policy committee. Like it's coming up soon.
And I'm sorry, the A was coming up or
The
this?
discussion about whether or not.
Use of facilities, right. As it refers to the AR or the.
Well, that's what it is, it's an AR.
Right.
And then the question was, does it need to become a policy? Because Robert had asked for direction. And so that's what we said, you send it to the policy committee to determine if you're going to make a policy. This is currently an AR.
Yes.
I could absolutely go with that because we are going to, I mean, it's already been sent then to policy. Yeah, so I could absolutely work with that. You want to explain that? You want to make a motion?
So I move that the operations committee recommend to the full board acceptance of the OE8 monitoring report for 2021. And place it on the consent agenda.
And I'll second that.
And Mr. Smith, that will not affect what's happening at the policy committee or anything for 2022.
Right. And I have a problem also in this today. I don't know I got to get the board out, but one of my questions are also with understanding the policies. And understanding the contracts and things that we have done. Also, that there are contracts that are being done or that people have outside the district that are using district facilities, and I would like to know where that money is going at too. And I think that should be brought before the board, and that at some point in time that should be presented to us as well. And I was thinking that would be presented today as well. I was looking forward to that being given to. I was looking forward to us being updated on that today.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Smith?
In terms of facility usage, yes.
I would think that would go to finance if we're talking about where the money goes. Like that's not really part of the OE facilities. I can read you what the section is since you don't have board docs and tell me if you think, because I think that would be something to put on an agenda, maybe for finance committee to say, you know, who's in charge of collecting that funds and who's in charge of, let's see, I can't find them.
Our facility.
Well, just
Okay, 1 second, please. Just 1 second, Mr. Smith. Go ahead, Mr. Rotting.
I was just say our facilities report, we do report that we brought in October. We do report the money and where the money goes.
For facility use.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the things we track.
Okay.
So
It depends on who does it and that kind of thing too, yeah.
So that was what I recalled, is that we do get that information. So, Mr. Smith, what is it you wanted beyond the information that Mr. Otting, what they presented in October?
my understanding was that this was the end of the year report, correct?
No, so yes, I mean, what the purpose of this report was to document where we've covered these items in the previous year. It wasn't to recover them. It was to show that during the year we covered that item, such as facilities use we did in October. So during the 2021 year, we did a report on facilities use in October, and that's what I'm reporting to you.
It's the evidence that it was reported.
That it was done. In other words, if I hadn't brought a report, you could say, I feel like that you did not meet that section and that report was never given, and you need to bring a report. And obviously we brought a report because that stirred up a conversation that brought many questions that's now have y'all interested in having the policy committee review it. So in my mind, I did my part. I brought the report. Now, if the board wants to change the policy around that, then that's what needs to happen. And I'm waiting on that to occur before I do anything different.
So this is my first year, right? But we've got 1 year under the belt. So on October 26th, Mr. Smith brought up the use of facilities. We didn't do there was no report that I saw unless there was something, the school, it basically, I'm looking at the notes. I don't remember seeing who's been using the facility. We just talked about the AR, right?
We had the AR in the.
Then that may be,
Yes.
I
I thought
but
you
you did-
and Randy did a
Yeah.
report to, I'm not sure who you did it to.
When you may have done it before, I was really conscious. as to
maybe,
what's going on.
maybe I missed.
I was thinking
It takes like 3 months to figure out what
We
needs.
have,
Yeah,
and so if we
no.
didn't do a report, then that's a very good point. We need to do. Let me look at my presentations.
Okay, so,
I do like the fact that apparently we monitor a software called Facility Dude.
Yes. It's part of the school dude software, so.
This year. 'Cause I didn't.
Yes, we
remember.
did, right? Because Brandy talked about that.
This is Brandy Majors talked, because I remember her coming to talk about.
She sat there in that chair right
Yeah.
over there in October.
I remember she was sitting right here.
Yeah, with Aunt Miller.
I'm trying to.
so, Mr. Smith, thank you very much for bringing this up. What we're doing right now is going through some different,
And actually, this is the exact purpose of this.
Right.
If we didn't bring the report, I guess we need to.
yeah, so
We need to do that.
here's October 26th.
I would remember Facility Dude.
See, I remember Facility Dude, but
But was that from 2020 or 2020?
well, this is my first year on this committee,
Yeah.
but it could have been from
a full board.
it could have been a full board
I'm
thing.
not saying that Facility Dude, maybe I wouldn't have.
No, but it's certainly,
It's all part of school dude, which is our.
Oh, you're right.
So it's just another little component of that.
It's such a
School
Silicon
dude.
Valley.
And School Dude is actually out of Raleigh,
Right.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
They are, at least in the southeast, all school districts use School Dude.
Right.
okay, so, Mr. Smith, thank you very much for bringing this up and,
Let me do more
right.
investigation, see if we did a report, and if we did not do a report, then we need to add it to be done.
So we'll bring this back to us at the next meeting.
Yeah, that sounds like.
Excellent. Mr. Smith, could you hear that?
Yes, I've heard every bit of it. I've been listening. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Appreciate
Okay,
it. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you very much for, asking that question.
Personally, I think maybe we should just withdraw the motion on OE8 then, rather than OE8 with exceptions.
I do too.
Is that okay with you guys?
We're gonna just bring it back at a
Completely
different
fine.
time. Yeah.
So I withdraw my motion.
I mean, like I said, I think that's the purpose of doing this. So, and if we need to bring something back that y'all feel like we need to bring back in order to answer this, then we need to do that.
Absolutely. Good.
Well,
All right. Anything else?
Future topics.
Yeah, we've got some future topics. Mr. Smith, any other future topics than those we've already discussed today?
No, Madam Chair, I think you have it all covered. I'm going to let you take the lead on that.
Okay.
Can we go through it? Because I obviously didn't write down what we're talking about other than the facilities use, but it's just a future topic.
I think
Well,
she said she was going to get with you and
there's
the audience.
the new process on the work orders.
Oh, you
I'm
mean-
sorry, Mr. Smith, I missed what you said.
No, I thought that the chairman, I thought that Mrs. Fisher said that she was going after the meeting, she was going to get with Mrs. Cushenberry and you and work on future topics. I thought she said she was going to tackle that after the meeting.
I just want to, I know that Ms. Cushenberry already has an ongoing list, so I was just going to compare my list to hers. So I think, because of time concerns right now, if it's okay with the committee here, I will confer with Ms. Cushenberry about that and we'll continue it, you know.
I hate to tell you, we're gonna have a long list again.
I know we are, I know. So,
That's fine, and I have one more thing.
Yes.
So, starting with this meeting for purposes of minutes and note taking so that you can have them the next day. I will only be providing for minutes the motions that have come out of the meeting. So I would like to view what I have with you now to make sure I have them correct, so that way you can have them tomorrow.
So the minutes are only gonna have the motions? What do
They're
they have
only
now?
gonna be the action items, because legally, that's all that that is what your minutes are supposed to be.
Well, I think we need to have a conversation about that
Okay.
then.
That was what I
Because-
got from the officer, so, but
Yeah,
the board can bring that up.
yeah. And I can understand where if it's a 24 hours, was it happen within 24 hours that
Right.
it's, you know, but I think that there would, some more information might be imperative. So would it also list the people in attendance?
Well, I have to, that's part of the mess. You have to do the date, the time, the people in who attended, who was there, what time the meeting started, and then the action items.
Okay,
And this is being recorded, correct?
Yes, and this is being recorded.
okay. So I don't know, I mean, if this is the way that all committees are now gonna be done, I think this should be a whole board discussion, not
Okay.
just, you know, but I have some concerns about that.
Okay.
So, so I think that this would be a good thing to bring up in the work session too. I mean, but I understand to do what you have been doing and getting it in a timely manner is just
What I have been doing would not work in 24 hours.
right. So, okay. Will you remember to bring that up as an agenda item?
I will, because
Is he still on?
I think are you still there? This was what he had suggested I do, so no, he's not there.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Anything else?
I have a couple follow-up things that I wanted to get back on. What happened with Alston Parkway? They were gonna come back with some.
One of my items.
Okay.
They're gonna, there's a,
And then follow up, are the activity buses, did they arrive? Are they distributed?
2 have arrived. The last 2, I believe, are supposed to come this week.
And then the 17 new propane buses and the propane.
Those, we have not gotten a date on when we're gonna receive those yet. We are in the permitting stage of the actual station. So the actual work to install the tank hasn't occurred yet. We have not completed the permitting process.
And then the other 2 easements we talked about a while ago, like at Beaufort High and Ladies Island Middle School. They were gonna get back to us.
They're gonna come back in February. That's
Okay,
what
so
we-
all 3 of those easements are coming back up in February?
Yes, well,
Alston,
the county would
The
like to.
county's part of it.
The county is gonna come report on their projects. They would like to come report, and that would be Ladies Island Middle and Beaufort High. The WK Austin, well, let's talk at the end of this.
Yeah. Okay, so that is definitely a future topic.
Yes.
Definitely a future
I was
topic.
like, oh.
Yeah.
What happened?
All right. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much, everybody.